And last but not least, Mr. Mahir Zeylanov from the Zaman daily newspaper. Welcome.
Thank you. I think that's the worst thing that could happen to a speaker is to be the last one. You know, the most hated person, especially the perfect time to sleep after lunch. But anyway, I'll try to be concise. Please do stop me if I exceed my time, because it's almost impossible to stop me as a journalist when I start speaking. My wife knows that better than anyone else. And actually, I was kicked out of Turkey for speaking too much. So, so you can imagine what kind of... Thank you. So you can imagine what kind of torture it has been to the government there. But anyway, to understand what's going on in Turkey and the persecution of the Gulen movement at the hands of the Turkish authorities at the moment, we have to understand the mainstream pattern that's been going on in the past 8 years in the world. It's a decline of democracies in all over the world, not only in Turkey. It's not unique to Turkey. Samuel Huntington, a talented student of political science at Harvard, wrote a book about the third wave democratization, and he has said that as we are celebrating the 40th anniversary of the revolution in Portugal that ended the fascist dictatorship there, now we are seeing a decline of democracy since 2007. Since 2000, there have been 25 breakdowns of democracy in all over the world, including Turkey, Hungary, and Russia. These are the prime examples that have been once semi-democracy in 1990s and have gone to a wrong direction as they become more affluent. At the moment, there are between 114 and 119 democracies, or we could call as elected democracies, as Turkey is, where you have free and fair elections relatively, but not liberal democracy. The constitutional freedoms and rights, civil liberties, political rights are not protected. Well, we can actually see Turkey as part of this wave of the restrictions of democracy all around the world. But also, we also should consider that these countries have become more affluent because of the tremendous financial crisis in advanced economies. When foreign investors took their money out of these countries and invested in countries like Thailand, South Africa, India, Turkey, these countries became more wealthier. Well, in Turkey, when Erdogan came to power, Turkish people were 43% less prosperous than they are now. But they are more indebted than any time in the history. So and Erdogan was so smart in terms of building infrastructure in the country that they actually sold entire assets of Turkish state that equal to $61.2 billion and invested heavily in infrastructure projects that were too popular. Well, and it has created patron-client relationship. The sticks and carrots are bigger. If you vote to the government, you will have a bigger carrot, but if you speak out, there's a massive crackdown on critics. The sticks are harsher. Well, the Zaga in Turkey started in 1997 when Erdogan was reciting a modified version of poem before the crowd. There was a mayor of Istanbul by then. That disturbed once powerful military establishment, and the hostile judiciary jailed him for 3 months on charges of inciting animosity among the public. 15 years has passed, and then that man Erdogan, whose recital poem landed him in jail with the exact article of the Turkish Penal Code, he pressed charges against me for inciting animosity among public and also insulting him. That actually has shown what kind of transformation the Turkish society and the Turkish government has gone through, from the victim, from the oppressed to the oppressor. And at that time, the mainstream newspaper Hürriyet ran a headline called that Erdogan can never be even a village head. That disturbed Erdogan so much that almost in every political rally, he used that sentence to garner the votes. And he has understood the importance of media in Turkey. And he has done whatever it takes to create loyal media, and it has been very successful until 2010, 2011, because he has been on the right path in terms of reforming the Turkish politics, limiting the role of the military in politics, and reforming judiciary in line with EU standards, undertaking sweeping reforms. He actually eliminated any kind of quite anti-democratic and hostile forces. And he has become a one-man power. It's become one-man rule. And since the time of Atatürk, it's the first time in Turkish history that the power clustered around one man that much. And then when we had the corruption scandal that blew in like a deadly wind in 2013, he had to hide and sweep all this dirt under the rug. And he has escalated crackdown on dissent and tried everything to muzzle any kind of critics. And I mean myself could narrowly escape the jail in Turkey and came here. And on Monday, I confronted a Turkish foreign minister and asked him about the press freedoms. And then he was just zigging and zagging and talking about like how the journalists in jail are there for terrorism or throwing the Molotov cocktails. And a few days later, he blocked him on Twitter. Under Erdogan, the Gulen movement has a mixed record. To tell the truth, in the past, almost every prime minister and the president, since Kenan Evren, the president of Turkey, the military president of Turkey, except Ahmet Necdet Sezer, almost every prime minister and the president of Turkey supported Gulen movement either this way or another, or remained oblivious to whatever they had done, except Erdogan. He has never ever gone to any Turkish schools abroad. He has never ever spoke in favor of the Gulen movement publicly, and he has done whatever he could to block it secretly. Actually, it was exposed that in 2004 National Security Council meeting, he and his cabinet drafted a document to finish off the Gulen movement. But because there was a false sense in Turkey that the Gulen movement is so powerful that aligning with it will bring some goodies. So, for example, let's say if anyone said anything against Fethullah Gulen was locked up by those prosecutors who believed that they will be promoted, and then actually, the ball was thrown in the Gulen movement's court, and then everyone thought that that was Gulen movement trying to stifle dissent. And after when Fethullah Gulen said that I'm against that, all these journalists, including the Dipshanalar Ahmet Şık, were released from jail. So that was kind of they're trying to align with power, with a false sense of power. Well, the Gulen movement's confrontation with Erdogan also coincides with how Washington and Brussels treated with Turkey. So since 2013, we could see in the capitals of European Union and the United States, the US officials and European officials are increasingly uneasy about how Turkish rulers are handling the country and ruling the nation there. And it actually parallels to what the Gulen movement has been saying. So that's actually an answer to criticism that where were you that have been offsided all the time. The crackdown on the Gulen movement is so massive that the Turkish state has consumed its resources, both in Turkey and abroad, to finish it off. The laws are amended and the judiciary is put under tight government's control, and the media has been suppressed in a greater extent. Well, Erdogan all the time plays a victim. So he believes that he's actually playing to that. He believes that he's the leader of the conservative people that have been oppressed for a long time under the secular and the military establishment. And whenever the Gulen movement has started to criticize the government, that was the biggest threat to the throne of Erdogan, because that would totally destroy what Erdogan has been saying all along for 15 years. That we are the leader of the oppressed people not only in Turkey, but all around the world. But whenever there's a conservative group, conservative movement saying that though whatever you're doing is wrong, then he started to realize that's killing his narrative. And that's why he is doing whatever he can to finish it off. In the verse of Farid Zakaria, he's actually He is playing the victim with conspiracy theories that are as nasty as ridiculous. Because the president of Turkey is so divisive in his rhetoric that the society is divided along ethnic and the political lines, and the Gulen movement is being used as a scapegoat. And then, if anyone in Turkey that needs to be demonized, you can see the Turkish officials or the pro-government journalists on TVs and newspapers are just calling them parallels. So if anyone needs to be demonized, they are being described as parallel. When the German president came to Turkey and criticized the lack of freedoms and rights in Turkey, a Turkish pro-government newspaper declared him as the Imam of Germany. Well, Turkish authorities are so good at spinning the truth, they're so good at creating perception in public and manipulating the entire society. The biggest contribution to Turkish media is all about this political communication. So he taught the media how they can control the society. He knows that if you control the TV channels in Turkey, then you can control the entire society. Even in the United States, when we have free and independent media here, but you know, like the New York Times is the most powerful newspaper not only in the United States but also in the world. But unless one of the U.S. networks pick up what they reported, it doesn't become a national agenda in this country too. So in that sense, Erdogan has done everything to control the TV channels, and there are only few TV channels that can only broadcast critical coverage. Well, Turkish public values stability over democracy. And that has been one of the mistakes of the Gulen movement and the Turkish opposition, because they always build their narrative on rights and the freedoms and democracy. In Turkey, people have deja vu when they hear about the coalition governments. They think that this is a monster that shouldn't be unleashed because it was too difficult to tame it. Between 1990 and 2001, there have been 10 governments. And they were so corrupt, nepotism was so rampant, and then they have given so little to the society that people don't want to go back there. They don't care about democracy or human rights or anything else. They only care about if we have relative stability, because then we can, make the ends meet, and then we can pay our debt. Because the Turkish society, especially the private sector, has been borrowing crazily because of the Federal Reserve's loan program in the past 5 and 6 years. Turkish public has become more wealthier, but also more indebted, and that's what we should call as a AKP sapiens, because Erdogan has created a Turkish man that is very indebted to all the banks, and then they always worry that if we vote to someone else, then we'll not be able to pay our debt back. So in that sense, I offered that in one of the articles for the Huffington Post that the Turkish opposition should not reject that there should be a presidential system in Turkey. Because people believe that if we have a presidential system in Turkey, then we'll have more stability, because parliamentary system means always there's a risk that there will be coalition governments. A sleeping monster for the Turkish society. So I offered that the Turkish opposition could propose that we could have the majoritarian electoral system that will create two-party system as we have it here in the United States or in Britain, and that actually leads to the stability, but you will also preserve the parliamentary democracy in Turkey. So what in the future? So I believe that the dictatorships cannot assume that it will pass very fast. We have seen the Gaddafi dictatorship for like 40 years. In Egypt, we had the Mubarak dictatorship for like 30 years, and it's continue going on even in the worst form. But Turkey has a different style of government. Turkey is not another typical Middle Eastern country where the people are, bowing to, whatever their leaders are saying. Turkish society is so vibrant. Civil society is so functional, and then we have a long tradition of democracy and pluralism that there's no way that the Turkish public will bow out to what they have been offered. And the economy is key here. As the Federal Reserve has signaled that it will have a rate hike in the summer, so I believe that that will put Turkish companies at a greater risk in the summer. And we have seen the dollar is getting stronger and stronger against the Turkish lira, creating concerns among the public that if the direction of the government is going in the right direction. And as that time comes that the economy bites, people will start questioning of Erdogan's consuming Turkish state's entire resources in trying to crack down on the Gülen movement and what it calls as the parallel structure. And I believe as that time comes, that will be the end for the Erdogan's administration. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mahir Zeylanov, for that great presentation.